that we integrate technology within the education system, despite the fact that we don't have electricity in all the places. But then we need to think, what do we do to bring on the very last school? As I speak, tomorrow we are having head teacher meetings across the nation. And those head teachers are talking about how to make sure that the EMIS system is alive. What is the EMIS calendar and what are they supposed to do? We are creating professional learning communities of head teachers. We want head teachers to support each other. Who makes a school? We can put their school, we can put their teachers, we can put their books, we can put their head teachers, but a head teacher in a school is very important. So as a Ministry of Education, we are taking it on to create professional learning communities of head teachers. We are starting at the secondary school level, and we are asking every secondary school to partner with a primary school in the neighborhood. If we have a secondary school in every sub-county, and we have primary schools in that sub-county, we should be able to pair up this leadership and then create learning communities, impact on these head teachers, and let them learn from each other. We are on Zoom most of the time with those who can, and then they go back home and then sit the others and then be able to tell them, this is the direction of the ministry. I saw somebody with a t-shirt here and said we cannot have development without direction. We must have direction. And the Ministry of Education provides direction. Next. I don't want to give you quite a lot of numbers because you really have numbers, okay? Let's move on. With the EMIS, we are going to have learner identification numbers. And the learner identification numbers are going to track learners from pre-primary all the way up to the university. And we want that tagged to the national identification number of the child as they are born. They should be able to get a national identification number within the health center where they're born, so that we can begin to count. While right now, within the EMIS system, I just quoted this afternoon, that there are 21,892 pre-primary institutions. I did not want to bring numbers of how many learners, because I know that the numbers are not yet right. But the next time you invite me, I'll come here with my computer, and whatever information you need about education, I will have it. Data, as I said, is very important. We look after the curriculum for the ECD centers. We also look after the training for the teachers. I know quite a number of teachers are in these institutions and they are not trained, but we want to let you know that they should be trained. We, as government, do not run early childhood development centers. We don't. But the individuals who run these centers should be monitored, should be guided, and that is what we do. Next slide talks about the primary schools. We have quite a number of primary schools, both private and government, and still I did not bring the numbers of the learners, but as I said, we are collecting this data, updating it every other time, so that data is important. Will we have the slides? Whoever has the slides. Go to the primary, the next slide. 47,508 primary schools are registered, of which 12,491 are government schools. And somebody is saying, why isn't the government taking 90% of that? Probably yes, but we'll be able to get there. UPE has boosted enrollment, and we can see the learners in the schools, and it is now critical to make sure that they learn what is expected to be learned in those schools. And like I told you, the head teachers in these schools, the teachers in the schools are critical, and it is our duty to mentor them, and that is the duty we are embarking on. Let's move to the secondary education. Now, 8,176 secondary schools are registered, and 1,370 of those are government aided. Now you can see that there are most private providers in the secondary space. And yes, the policy is we should have a secondary school in every sub-county. And what do we see now? Of course, the learners are moving away from the government schools and they're going to the private schools. Why? Probably the service in the government schools is not as expected. But why isn't it as expected? The head teachers are critical to us, and we are getting in there. The information must come on table. We must be able to know what is happening at all times. Within the lower secondary curriculum, space, the curriculum is changing. And why is the curriculum changing? Many people are complaining, all of us have been complaining that the graduates of our schools cannot do anything. I'm happy. I've seen gentlemen on the cameras here, and now everybody elsewhere is watching us. But when did they get trained on the camera? Probably after university, like you've said. Why didn't they start at the primary level? Why didn't they start at the secondary level? And that's why we are changing the curriculum. The curriculum still has its challenges, and when you are rolling out a national program, you need to start. When you wait, you will never start. You need to start, and then you begin to improve. We shall improve. We shall get there. And we are getting there. What is important? Mindset change. Mindset change from the leaders, and that's what I've told you. We are grappling with the leadership in our schools, and we are working on it. From the leader to the teachers. And who makes a school? We've said it's the head teacher with the teachers. But who makes the teachers? It is the head teacher. Now, who makes the head teacher? It's us. And we are destined for that, to provide the direction, and we will be able to get there. So you know that there is universal secondary education. You also know that there is universal post-O-level education and training programs in schools. When you go up country, you find very good buildings in secondary schools. But when you look at the A-level section, especially the A-level section, the numbers are low. The numbers are low. One, the parents, of course, some learners have moved to the urban centers, but also the curriculum has pushed the students out of school. I'm a mathematics teacher, and for those I taught, I think I have only one here. Anyone who went to Gayaza High School? Only Diana went to Gayaza High School. I know Kabera came after I've left, but my name, I think, rhymes with the stories there. Whoever would come in senior one, you would go to teach in a rural primary school, mathematics for 5 hours. And it was deliberate. Why? For you to learn the community challenges. When you learn the community challenges, the next step is for us to tell you that you are the leader for tomorrow, and you must devise solutions to those problems. So there was a lot of community activity. I was just looking around out here and looking at all the homes here and imagined the schools within this locality. How often do they come out to work and support the communities to change their livelihood? That's why we are changing the curriculum. The class must stop being the forward classroom. It must be in the open space. It must be where the problems of the communities are. We must find education within the spaces of the problems. You would not study mathematics at A level without putting on gumboots if you are in my class. And we are very deliberate because this is an agricultural country. You needed to understand, and journalists, you need to understand where 90% of our people find their livelihood. And let the stories focus on that. How do we uplift the community people? We don't have to uplift the few people in the oil sector, but we need to uplift the 90% of our people in the agricultural sector. And the agricultural value chain is very clear. So as a teacher of mathematics, a teacher of history, a teacher of music, a teacher of English, how do you integrate that skilling in agriculture in your classroom? That's what the new curriculum, secondary curriculum, is talking about. So we are very deliberate as ministry, as government, to transform the education in this country. And from the secondary level, we'll move up to the A-level section, but clearly looking at the primary end. Clearly looking at the primary end, there is already a thematic curriculum. There is no reason why the science teacher is teaching science, and in the science classroom, they are drawing cabbages on the blackboard. The schools have gardens, and the students are not going into the garden, and you're teaching mulching on the blackboard. It is about training, yes, it's about mentorship, and we are getting in there. We are very deliberate, we'll be able to do that. But we need you to speak out, to tell the stories. If there are schools that are doing well, uplift their voices. Tell us what they are doing, bring them through the media space, and let other people learn from them. I would go on and on, because after the secondary school level, when you come to the higher level, the TVET policy is out, and skilling all learners is critical, and that's why you are seeing that even at the lower level, skilling is coming up. So the policies, the guidelines are in place. We need the support from everybody, our friends here. As you deal with the academy here, let's think about the education and how can we integrate our voices into the education space. I will stop there because I have another engagement, but I will come back into the room to listen to the next discussions. I thank you.
Dr. Dungu now maintain. Dr. Dungu. Let's give Mr. Dungu a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Many people wanted to understand where the government is in terms of uplifting seed schools to make sure that they are somewhere, isn't it? Did you receive the state of education in Uganda? Let's clap for Mr. Dungu one more time. Let's now welcome again the choir. They're supposed to give us a song at first, and the systems denied them a chance, and now they are proper. Let's welcome Kennedy High School to give us a piece, a song, and then we shall continue with our program. Kennedy.
Mighty Father, you are holy. Holy Emmanuel, no other name but
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm seeing another Rema Namakula in the building. Eh? Who is the lead singer of the song? Come here, come here, come here, come here. Somebody get me my wallet. I want to give this lady 50,000. Just give us your name and why you were chosen to be the lead singer for this song. Just be a celebrity for some minutes.
Good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Katasi Rebecca Mkashaka, aka Becky, and you know that song. I was just given a chance because at first I loved it, and you know, God knows the reason why I was chosen to lead the part. Thank you.
All right, aka Becky and not chosen Becky, just to quote that right. Becky, thank you so much. Before you leave, make sure you come to me. I'll give you 50,000. Anybody else who wants to give her some money? On the crew? Anybody else? You guys, I know Mbena and Bina, yeah? Let's appreciate this choir, yeah? Anybody else? Okay. Somebody who is keeping this footage, keep it for me. I'm seeing somebody becoming a big star. Rema was like that in Budo. And somebody say the exact words I'm saying to her. Today she makes 4 million to sing for you on a Kwanjula. Just one Saturday, and she has over like 7 bookings on a day. How much is that? How much does an MP make in a month? We don't want to go there, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to craft solutions to education challenges and to make sure we zoom into how the future will be for Ugandan education, isn't it? We have people in this nation who have studied but never know the importance of studying. We want to play a video of how people in Soroti and how teenage pregnancies has affected education in Soroti district, most especially the eastern world of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, all your eyes on the screen as we premiere this video from Soroti. Nwali right there is going to be hosting the panel discussing Uganda's education achievement, opportunities, and solutions. But as of now, let's get into the video and understand how education and teenage pregnancy in Uganda is hugely affecting it. Production.
As some school dropouts remain staying together with their parents, this is not the case with Rebecca. School dropouts remain staying together with their parents. This is not the case with Rebecca Alabo. Alabo, a resident of Awoja, Anganya village in Aukot sub-county, Soroti district, dropped out of Gweri Secondary School when she was in senior 2. Alabo, aged 21 years, was rejected by her father, including other relatives. Her worst situation started when she dropped out of school due to pregnancy in 2019. She was 17 years old, a single mother of 1 child of 4 years. Alabo was chased out of their home by his father and was again rejected by her auntie's husband, where she had rushed to take refuge. A 6th-born of 8 children, Alabo was finally offered accommodation and meals by a well-wisher who felt bad about her situation. As if that was not enough, during her labor pains, she again faced a challenge of transport to the health facility, problem of feeding and baby sheets, no relative bother to accompany her to Soroti Regional Referral Hospital. She remained stigmatized and rejected, where she thought of committing suicide.
Nothing tortured me. They chased me out. I had to sleep outside. Biting me, he told me that no, with your womb you're eating a lot of food. If there is a problem, we are now going to start locking you inside the house. Now when it was the time for giving birth, things we had, I didn't have things for carrying the baby. I was helpless. They got the only bed sheets and they divided for taking me to the hospital. So after that, things were not okay.
She went and pleaded to her mother to allow her return home, but the father still insisted to chase Alabo and her mother, Betty Abunyo, who is living positively with the HIV/AIDS virus. They lived a horrible life elsewhere for 6 months, but only managed to return home after her father's death. Abunyo, Alabo's mother, says she
Have a seat right here. Let me talk to you while you're seated. You're a very important person.
Thank you.
Have a seat, please. Leah, take us through what happened to Alobo after you've covered the story.
So, once more, my name is Leah. I'm a community reporter from DW. So, some of you may ask the question that why Alabo? But Alabo had a very, very appealing story when she dropped out of school. Alabo was a bright girl. She loved mathematics and science. She dropped out of school when she was in senior 2. Just because she never wanted to drop out. But what was the problem? It was due to poverty. Alabo used to foot over 7 kilometers, 7 miles to school, where she was convinced by a certain man who claimed that he was a rich man. He could come driving his car, that I am a rich man. Now, come, be parking your bicycle or come on the roadside, stay there, I'll come and pick you with my car, I drop you to school. She was convinced like that. After, this lady conceived.
This
girl conceived. When she conceived, she went to the man that things are not well now.
Was the car still there?
Pardon? So, from that time up to now as we talk, Alabo doesn't know where the vehicle has gone. The phone number, the man changed, the phone number is not available. Even that day when I was communicating to her, I told her first bring the number we tried to call, but was not on. So, as Alabo was from a poor family, the father, I think the parents and the relatives, who were trying to go and labor in some people's gardens to get money for buying books and paying house school fees. The father felt bad and chased this lady out of school. This girl out of home. So when she was chased out of home, she went to her auntie's place, whereby the husband to the auntie also rejected her. Alabo was helped by the well-wisher who felt bad about her situation. She was given accommodation and meals. But the worst bit of it, during her labor pains, the well-wisher also told her, I've done my part, so continue now from there. So the access to the health facility was hard. No transport, no even baby sheets. Alabo decided to go
and sat on the roadside, waiting for any person who will help her to take her to the hospital. Indeed, a man came as she was in pain. She could not remember his name. So a certain man came, dropped her up to Soroti Regional Hospital. Reaching there, she underwent an operation, but was successful. Before that, she was asked to pay, a doctor asked her to pay some 350,000 for operation, but Alabo didn't have the money by that time. But I think the doctor also felt bad about her situation. She was operated. Then now, what to use for welcoming the newborn? Alabo had no baby sheets. So the mother to Alabo now came with the 2 old baby sheets and divided for carrying the baby. So when they were discharged from the hospital, back home, still the dad insisted, chased all of them out of home. So Alabo's mother, who is called Abunyo, moved with her daughter to their home in Aukot, to the mother's home in Aukot.
Fast forward, is the kid okay and is Alabo okay now?
The kid is okay. The kid is now 4 months.
Oh.
4 years.
4 years, okay.
Alabo is also fine. She's now finally back to her home. But unfortunately, the dad passed on. They only came back home after her father's death.
Was it a blessing in disguise?
I'm not sure, really.
I'm just trying to think outside the Roman box.
They are now at home with the mother.
Nobody will chase them?
No, because the dad, who was tough on her, passed on.
Okay. Did Alabo has plans of returning to school?
As we talk right now, Alabo is very willing to go back to school if she is given that opportunity. She is very ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a hand clap to Leah. I think Leah has a talent of storytelling. Storytellers move with books. They don't want to miss out any point. Uganda holds the record of having the youngest grandmother at the age of 14 years. That girl is in Mbale. At the age of 14, she's a grandmother. Daily Monitor did that story. NBS did that story too. Honorable, am I lying? At the age of 14, she's a grandmother. How? How? Ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing teenage pregnancy. On the 14th of, I think, July 2018, Daily Monitor produced a story. It shouldn't be 14, but I think she's 21. And her daughter, who is 14, also produced. Her daughter, who is 14 also, but it was 2018. Yes. And in 2020, NBS ran that story when the kid who produced at 14 died while giving birth to a 4th child. She got pregnant when she was 10. By 14, she was having her 4th child and died. So she died while giving birth to her 4th. She's in Mbale. When you reach Mbale and ask for that lady, they will take you to her. So Uganda holds that record in Guinness Books of Records. Yeah? So teenage pregnancy has become a toll on Uganda's education. Why I was asking Leah whether Alobo has a dream of going back to school, seems every girl who gets pregnant, on 100%, only 2 return back to school after getting pregnant. Only 2% on 100. And that has become a song for so many women after getting pregnant. Even at the university, you've studied with girls after getting pregnant. The husband says, why are you going back to school? Before she knows, second one. Yeah? And in secondary, it's worse because you're ridiculed, isn't it? It's becoming a toll on Uganda's education. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me welcome Rahim Nwali. But before that, we want to have a solution story. As many girls elsewhere are suffering, in Jinja specifically have gotten a solution to how things are going to be done. Girls who were stopped over in trading centers, confused by border men, not to go back to school, maybe after school, or even going to school, to stop somewhere, have an affair, and go to school. Jinja has gotten a story to tell, and Dan Ayebare, where are you, Dan Ayebare? Let's welcome Dan Ayebare from Solutions Now Africa. Dan, just come and have a seat. Dan Ayebare did a story of how Jinja is changing the narrative of how girls go to school and how the rate at which teenage pregnancy is being handled in Jinja. In production room, Dan, just take any couch where you want to sit, any pallet if you want, or you sit right there. Production, give us a story from Dan. We watch it for only 3 minutes and we'll engage Dan on how he managed to pitch this.
Almost every rural household in Uganda owns this two-wheeled machine. Can this rudimentary item truly shape the destiny of a young girl? Can its impact reach beyond the mundane routines of daily life and pave the way for a brighter future?
Today, if someone gave their story about how a bicycle has enabled them to access school and has transformed their lives, even if your mind is like negative, you will start seeing a bicycle in a different angle.
I believe many girls can stay at school when given necessary support.
Jinja City, eastern Uganda. It is one of Uganda's biggest industrial hubs. However, venturing off her rural side unveils an entirely different perspective of life. My name is Dan Ayebale. Today, my interest is about the state of access to education in this district. There are many factors to this, but let's examine the home-to-school distance. Here is the picture. There are only 12 secondary schools to serve 326 rural administrative units, which you can call cells or villages in Jinja district. Quick math. That's one secondary school to serve approximately 27 villages. Take an example of Lubani Secondary School, located in Butagaya sub-county, 5.2 kilometers from Doreen Nandas's home. To and from school, it means she has to cover over 10 kilometers every day.
Kuba mailo twali mumpanvu okutwala omwana oyo ku isomero ng'omwana atuuka leeti bamugema leeti era nga gabita essaawa namba kitundu ng'atambwire kuba emailo diriwo.
There is though a new ray of hope since a local organization named Fabio gave her a bicycle to facilitate her journey to school.
Essaawa eno omwana atuuka mangu ku isomero era ebaire n'omugaso munene era tufunyemu. Eddakiika 3 aba atuuse ku isomero era tankobanga kwati bamugemye leeti. Eripooti nze nsanufu.
Glucose has 6 carbon atoms. When we put here our 6, where N is equal to 6, we can have C6, Ag, ferro, or...
You look at
the distant places from this school. This is one government school in almost this sub-county, relatively cheap. But the distances, many of these girls do not make it without these bicycles. But one who comes to school early, it has an advantage when a student comes to school early. One will have to revise the previous work, tries to comprehend. Say, comes here by 7 and lessons begin at 8. So that extra time added is of value to that child.
Before I go to that base school, by then I was good. I got outstanding, basic, moderate, but now I got outstanding.
Lubani Secondary School is defying the odds with an enrollment of over 70% girls, a remarkable figure when compared to the gender demographics of most schools in Uganda. In a typical Ugandan school, it's not uncommon for boys to outnumber girls. The question arises, could the bicycle project have played a role in achieving this exceptional statistic?
Can we confirm that partly the reason for the increase in enrollment is such a program from Fabio?
Partly. We wouldn't say it is
not
fully.
Yes, and I said partly. Can we really?
Partly we can say that has enabled the girl child to
why
to stay in school and maybe catering for the percentage. Our part is mainly to identify those who have challenges of coming to school, distance-wise and even poverty level. So we as in charges of the school, we know these learners. So that one is coming late every now and then. Their families who are struggling to make them to be in school. So we come up with that, and then Fabio supplements.
Under the Cycle to School project, an education empowerment program, Fabio is addressing student dropout.
So, why ginger? We are always on the lookout for what is working in our societies because we believe that the mainstream media covers most times the problems, and we thought maybe to balance it, we can always go out to see what is working. So for this case, we headed out to Ginger to cover this, this solution, or maybe you can call it, solution, which is being fronted by Fabio, which is an non-government organization. And the reason why we chose Ginger, Usoga region has educational challenges that are so unique to that region only, because most times the children get lost on sugarcane plantations, and many people, many organizations, many individuals are heading out to Usoga to fix such problems, of which Fabio is one of them, where they're providing bicycles
to cut you short or interrupt you. What is the condition like on ground? Is there impact after these bicycles have been given to these girls to go to school? Is there another downfall of how pregnancies are being handled right there?
Yeah, I think you noticed that they said that 70% like in that school are girls, and that's rare for a typical school in Uganda. So I think that's an indicator of how maybe such bicycles, like the head teacher says partly how bicycles are helping maybe to fix the problem of girls drop out. So yes, on the ground, it is clear that girls are being helped. You may ask how are boys being helped? It's a topic for another day.
You want to mentor a girl, but who distracts a girl? Who distracts a girl? I want to clarify that Leah comes from community reporter of DW Partner Academy. Yeah? He's not a reporter for DW. She's a community reporter of DW Academy Partner and ETOP Uganda, a subsidy of New Vision. Thank you so much, Dan Ayebare. from Solutions Now Africa. Let's give another round of applause for Dan Ayebare. Dan, we appreciate you so much for those efforts and the team, and we wish that you do more Solutions Now stories, and of course, speech for more funding. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now welcome Kabera. Kabera, you ready? I want to have a glimpse of how Sowetry is done. Kabera will give us a song of about 3 minutes, Sowetry of about 3 minutes, and then we shall cross over to Rahim Nwali to take us through the panel of so many intelligent and awesome panel. Kabera?
Good afternoon. Is this on? Can you hear me?
You can use this one.
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Julius is one of the few people who pronounces my name correctly. Even I can't. Before I perform, I would like to share something, food for thought, or something that I've been reflecting on as I heard you all speak. One of my worst proverbs, since I learned it in P4, was experience is the best teacher. Why? Really? Because as I've grown older, the hatred for that proverb has grown, because it's used, when you go for a job, entry level, fresh out of university, they're asking for how many years of experience? 3? Yes. 3 years of experience, but you're fresh out of uni, right? Which doesn't make sense. But I wanted to play around with that, so I wrote a little stanza. I was listening. And I just want to throw it to you guys. Experience is the best teacher. So you'll forgive me if I don't bow in awe of your first-class degrees and so-called PhDs. I have seen engineers driving DMCs, architects building houses to be constructed in swamps, members of parliament, diplomats, ambassadors, breaking traffic rules in their air-conditioned, carbon-emitting cars. Experience is the best teacher. And in today's lesson, I have learned that there's a difference between being educated and a difference between going to school. Just a little food for thought. That wasn't the performance, just school for mic check. Before I perform, I like to pray, and I would like my audience to pray with me to whichever God you believe in, or object, or whatever, You never know these days. So let's bow our heads and pray. Oh, Mukama tuyambe kubange nsi yaffe Uganda entabudde. Oh, Mukama tuyambe kubange nsi yaffe Uganda entabudde. A certain bishop in a certain county, a certain parish, a certain country is of the view that teenage mothers should not go to school. Now, when it comes to society, when it comes to men and systematic patriarchy, it has got to be the audacity for me. I'll give this bishop a benefit of the doubt. Maybe the church has denied him a wife. Maybe he has no daughters or sisters to care for. Therefore, throwing 32,000 girls out of school per month is a piece of cake. When it comes to society, when it comes to the patriarchy in systems like education, it has got to be the audacity for me. But you see, those numbers don't scare me, because when it comes to the girls and women in my country, it's the strength for me. Those are just 32,000 songs of victory, because when it comes to the learners in my country, we will rise, and we will rise up. We will rise. Let's take these teenage mothers back to school. Thank you.
I think that clap was meant for me. Let's clap for Kabera. When we talk about Soweto, that's what I meant, ladies and gentlemen. The hashtag on Twitter is Media Dialogue UG. M for capital, D on dialogue is capital as well, and UG, the U is capital. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to appreciate you so much for being part of this conversation. But let me now hand over to Rahim Nwali to take us through the panel, which is going to be discussing on education in Uganda, achievements, opportunities, and solutions to meeting national commitments and SDG 4. Over to you, Nwali.
Mic check.
Nwali, if you're ready, let me know.
Mic check. All right. Thank you so much, Julius. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Ms. Alobo Rebecca. Alobo is a community-based journalist in Soroti who was supported by the DW Academy to do a story. And we want to thank you so much, because part of the reason why we sit here is to weave out ways on how we can have these conversations and stories to the national agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever National Media Dialogue on Education. My name is Rahim Nwali, and I'm super delighted to be hosting the conversation in which we'll be speaking about the opportunities, the challenges, and the solutions to the big, big problems like those that we just saw in those stories. And with me today, we will be speaking with a team of panelists. We'll be speaking to Dr. Patricia Litho, who is from Makerere University, and I will kindly request her to take up her space and sit. We will also have Mr. Patrick Kaboyo, who is the secretary from the Federation of Non-State Education Institutions. We will be speaking to Ms. Brenda Namata, who is from the Uganda Media Women's Association. We will be speaking to Bob Owinyi, who is the district councillor in Soroti, who will be joining us online. And we will be speaking to Dr. Philbert Baguma, who is also the secretary from the Uganda National Teachers Association, and Imani Shimwe Ronald from the Uganda Youth Forum, which is part of the First Lady's office. I will kindly request those people to kindly come and take up their seats so we can kickstart on this very important conversation. And this is how we will, have it. We will have the panelists speak to us, and then later we'll open the conversation to the plenary. You can contribute, kindly jot a few things that you might need to ask to the different speakers. Thank you. Perhaps we'll give them a second to take up their seats. All right, I've been informed that Mr. Kaboyo Patrick, the secretary from the Federation of Non-State Education Institution, is not with us today, sadly. Thank you so much for being with us. There's a speaker online. If you could just, the production team, if you could just elevate that picture perhaps to the front. I would like to start with him. But before that, I would love to ask the panelists to introduce themselves in just a minute or two so that we know the different capacities and the people that we are talking to. I will start with you, perhaps, gentlemen.
Thank you. My name is Leonard Manshimwe. I'm the Executive Director of the Uganda Youth Forum. I'm also the Vice Chairperson of the Education Advocacy Network. And Of recent, I've been involved in training journalists on public service delivery reporting. It's a pleasure to be part of this dialogue.
Thank you. My name is Brenda Namata, and I work with Uganda Media Women's Association as the Communications and Advocacy Officer. Uganda Media Women's Association champions the gender agenda in the media, and therefore we do advocate and promote for equal representation and visibility of women's voices in the media content. Thank you.
Thank you. Baguma Filbert Bates, the General Secretary, Uganda National Teachers Union. I'm glad to be part of this dialogue.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm glad to be here. I'm Patricia Lethal. Can I just correct, I'm no longer at Makerere University. I was there once, but I'm still an academic and researcher, and I'm board chair for Uganda Media Women's Association, very interested in capacity building. And Brenda's done a good job introducing the association. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Make my way the other side.
Thank you. The production team, do we have Bob Awinyi online? All right, perhaps as they work hard to get us Mr. Bob Awinyi, I would love to start perhaps giving this whole conversation alive. These stories that we just watched are just statistics until when they're so close to us, isn't it? We have seen so many problems. We have seen numbers of children dropping out of school. We have the other time like Kabira was speaking. There were some mixed reactions from the church when government was asking that pregnant girls back to school, and so much was being told. And perhaps I would love to start my conversation there with you, Mr. Filbert. Do we still have education as a public good, or I mean, I don't see how. And the reason I say is Uganda has significant success in higher education, with remarkable increase in university enrollment. And so how can we sustain higher education? And how can Ugandan graduates be better prepared to effectively meet the requirements of the market?
Yeah, thank you very much. Education remains a public good. Education cannot be taken like any other commodity. Where you go to the market, to the shops and get it. And therefore, what remains is for us as citizens to demand and make sure that education remains a public good. And the responsible centers play their roles. Because the Constitution of Uganda places the mandate of educating Ugandan children in the hands of government and the parents. And therefore, we have to guard against that constitutional provision. When we look at higher education, yes, very many students have gone to these institutions. The question remains: these products come out of these institutions and remain unemployed. So the question is why? If they have gone to school, they have studied, why do they remain unemployed? We need to go back to the drawing table and look at what is it that the students are subjected to learn versus what is outside in the market. What is it that the market demands from them? We have scenarios where students even go to these universities, tertiary institutions, but when they are looking for internship, they are running everywhere, and institutions are not allowing them to do internship. But at the end of the day, we want experience. And even those institutions which are not allowing them to do internship are the same institutions which demand to say what is your experience when you have finished the university. And therefore there is a need for us as a country, as citizenry, to make sure that there is that collaboration between education institutions and the employers. To make sure that when you are studying, for example, if there is an institution within this locality, how is the institution connected to the employers who are within this locality? So that the students can even have time off from the class to go and start practicing what they are studying. At the end of the day, it benefits both the students and the employers. But also on the courses which we teach in these universities. We need to look at what is it that is needed in the market. Not necessarily what you are going to study and go out and to whom it may concern. Because it takes a lot of resources for you to produce these graduates. And therefore consideration should be make sure that what you are producing is what is needed in the market. And then a waiver on this experience. We get experience through working. Now you are fresh from the university, and they are saying, please, what is your experience? Where do I get the experience? I am from school. I have the qualifications you need other than the experience. So can we have that collaboration between employers and the institution, so that even by the time you leave school, by the time you leave the university, you already have potential area where you can go and start practicing and gain experience as you work.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Litho, do you want to speak a little bit more about the nature of education that you're having vis-a-vis what is required in the market?
Yes. Reality is at the moment, the way we teach, the way we educate our citizens, our children, is detached from the employment market. And when he started to speak, he kept asking why people can't get employment. And continually, one of the challenging aspects have been, why are they looking to be employed? Why don't you create employment? Do we train our graduates, our students, to create, to innovate? Personally, looking at my own experience at school, I think innovation was stifled. And so you have to toe a certain line, and you grow up thinking like that. So if you look at the review of the curriculum, let's say for secondary education, O-level particularly, you'd see that I think there's beginning to be an appreciation of the experience he's talking about. And when people ask experience in the job market, what do they mean? I think the curriculum should incorporate a practical aspect. Mass communication that I've been teaching at Makerere University is very theoretical in nature. And personally, when I left Makerere, the first place I went to was, by then it was called Radio Uganda, now it's UBC. And the issue was always, we prefer students from such and such an institutions because they have a practical element. Quickly, what I did is to go to Uganda Management Institute that had a journalism diploma where they offered the practical training. Much as I'd learned all the theories about a camera, the shutter, white lighting, I just couldn't do those things. The first time I went to a dark room was in Uganda Management Institute. So you see there's that detachment. And many times when young students approach me and sort of ask, where do you think I should go for training, for internship? Sometimes I send them to places they find surprising because of the way we view the practical nature of things. And again, referring to his presentation, the issue about experience. I think if we incorporate actual practical experience in our curriculum and then partner with employees to appreciate that that equates to experience. For instance, at Uganda Management Institute, for instance, we had an actual magazine where we were taught how to write, and we had to write and publish and distribute. I know that in Makerere we had one, but it was optional. It actually belonged to the Students' Association of the Journalism School, personal initiative, but it wasn't deliberate. When you want to learn how to do advertising, it is all theoretical. I know I taught some of those things, but I had to learn my practical aspects when I left university, and it was personal initiative. Because everywhere, everyone is asking you for experience. So where do you get the experience from? Just yesterday, I was actually having a conversation with the managing director of the New Vision, Don Wanyama, and I was asking, can New Vision, for instance, knowing it's one of the best brands in the media, offer a sort of practical training? Knowing most of us are products of Makerere. Of course, there are so many institutions now offering mass communication, but unfortunately, they all sort of replicate what Makerere does. I mean, it's sort of a yardstick of how we train. But when we go to the market, nobody's asking for theories, I don't know, of communication and things like that. They're telling you, write a story. This is not a story. This is not news. Did you learn the inverted pyramid by any way? Yes, you do, but it's one of those quick things. But when it comes to the theoretical aspects, so that practical application of aspects is lacking in our education. And you can see what COVID taught us. I know it sounds cliche to refer to COVID, but I think that's when a lot of us began to appreciate certain things we've been talking about, incorporating technology in the way we teach and things like that. But of course, it has all these other realities and challenges of access, affordability. Even as the trainers, are you techno-savvy? How about the other side? Parents, we are used to dumping our kids to the teachers. Now there was a huge demand on parental participation. I'm a trainer, but it was so painful to have to supervise my boys to attend online classes. And for one of them, I just protested. By then, he's now 5. By then, he was a 3-year-old. I'm like, he doesn't even listen to me when I do a video call. How is he going to listen to somebody else learning? So that one, I just opted out. And then the other one, who was a P6 pupil at that time, now he's in S1, he struggled. And the kids are more technical savvy than us. He played so many tricks, I learned a lot during that period. The kids play tricks, the way they mute, minimize things, they're not listening to the teacher. Then the teacher is calling you. Is Danny online? Because we see him, but we are calling him to answer. I'm like, I also have things I'm doing. I'm employed. I'm possibly in a Zoom meeting trying to shush the kids, and I have to, it's so demanding. The new dynamics that COVID brought, the possibilities that technologies are providing, but what are the realities, the practicality of it? And we have to think through all this, but also accessibility. Maybe I can afford to give this to my children, the challenges stated aside. How about the other people who can't? So many people were denied education because they couldn't afford gadgets. And it's not enough to just have a computer or an iPad or a phone. You have to buy the data. It seems so easy, but it becomes a pain, always, and kids really use a lot of data. The amount of money you spend on buying data, and then the infrastructure. You spend so much on data, and I learned from my young son, it has glitched, things that, so the technology keeps glitching because of the infrastructure we have. And then government promises to provide radio education and learning materials. And I happened to move into a peri-urban area. And then they went to every house sort of documenting who should receive this reading material. And then they were charging people money to photocopy. I also wanted the reading material and said, you're not looking at your house. For you, you're not, what do you mean I'm not entitled? My kids also want to learn. I think you have, but you see, now I could say, okay, I'll photocopy for 10 parents if I have access to the material. You find your way around. And those are some of the things we need to think about, just in summary, but there's a lot in each of those aspects.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Litho. Perhaps we'll get back to the different innovations that continue to happen, and if they speak to the future of the education and the people that we have because of the huge gap, like you rightly said. I want to recognize the presence of Honorable Margaret Rabashaija, who is a member of Parliament and a representative of workers. You're most welcome. All right, I want to cross over to Mr. Bob Owinyi, who is joining us online, direct from Soroti. If the production team could give us that. All right, Bob, good to see you. Can you hear me, Bob? Can you hear me, Bob? Unfortunately, we don't seem to hear you, Bob. Do you wanna unmute your volume or mic? Right, as they get, perhaps we will be speaking to Brenda Namata shortly after Bob to speak to us about the role of media in bringing education, most especially. We thank you for your support, sir.
Hello.
Hey, Bob.
Hello. Yes, please. Good
evening, sir. We can hear you loud and clear.
Good evening. My name is Bob Owin. I am a district councillor, local government council. I am a former district speaker and district councillor representing the youth of the district council. I want to thank organizers of this opportunity. It is very important that dialoguing and discussing matters that affect the local people, especially the rural people. As we speak about education, one of the things that we start from is that we must put our attention so much to primary education because we can't talk about secondary education. That also emphasis must be put into government schools and private schools because most of them Uganda, especially the children of Ugandans, this government aided primary and secondary. And therefore, when we discuss education our attention is discussing about a small percentage of the people and leaving out the bigger percentage of the poor. Now, talking about primary education, UPE policy must review holistically because when you look at it looks at the issue of quantity and not quality. Many children are going to school, but the quality of the children who live in school does not match the standards of education. When you look at the number of children P1 at the time their colleagues are assuming 200 P1 in P1 23 when they're PLOE, you find that they are about 30 or 40. The question then is where do these other children go? If they started in the primary one, now in primary 7 they are less than 40 Where is the balance? And it's not that they are not that they just took out of the issues that you have there in the video. Early pregnancy, teenage pregnancy, marriages, those are the factors. Now, for us the local leaders there in the districts. The challenge with you is that government, yes.
Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. This story of Rebecca seems to be one of the many continue to arise in Soroti and in the country. And as a leader, what are the measures that are being? What are you guys doing to fight this big problem in Soroti? Bob?
Please pardon, I cannot hear you, please pardon.
I was asking.
Yes, I can
The
hear
story of Rebecca is just
many
of the problems that we continue to see. Specific child marriage, early pregnancies, and then the effect on the education of these young girls. As leaders, what are you doing? What are the systems that are being put in place to combat this problem in Soroti?
Now, one of the things we are doing is the awareness creation. We are doing whatever possible to create awareness in the community, public barazas, through local radio station, through social functions, to tell our people and talk about the dangers of early marriages, teenage pregnancies, and marrying of children. But as we also do creation awareness, also mobilize the people to understand the dangers in these devices that traps organize the education of our children. Government must also central government through the policies of education, because one of the issues is that parents have been told by some leaders from central government that this primary education is totally free. When we the leaders try to mobilize parents to pay money like PTA, to tell parents to support their children, the mindset of our parents is also not good. They believe since UPE is free education, then everything is free, to the level that parents have a mindset of not supporting their own children to ensure that they're at school. These girls are deceived by little money, they're deceived by pads, because if their parents cannot avail pads to them, then of course there's going to be a man or out there who will say, I can give you pads. If the parents are giving children at the time, some parents are saying, instead of me suffering because of poverty, it's better for me to benefit from my girl. Let me marry off my girl and benefit when I'm alive. So it is a question that what local leaders to ensure that create awareness, tools bylaws that are able to support, for example, functions that take place. We are saying should be tied maybe by these local functions of marriages and parties. The students are not getting inside functions. So also on bylaws that ensure that everything time within these children are not hands of the prey, them to save them to stop. Then there are also other challenges. Among other issues that we are doing also to engage the cultural institutions and then also engage the leaders that our message is consistent, ensuring that the campaign is early marriages, pregnancy, all those things that distort our children. You can travel like for the boys, they don't talk about pregnancies and marriages and the young boys. Also another challenge, much attention in the girl child, attention in the boy child.
Bob, have some of these have they yielded some results? Have you seen huge impact as a result of those interventions? All right, Bob doesn't seem to be. I would like to speak a little bit more about the impact of these interventions. Is it something working? All right.
Yes, definitely. The impact is there, not to a desirable percentage. Like from the time, like when I joined the council in 2016, the rate of pregnancies, early marriages was higher. However, I'm glad to say that the percentages are dropping. But they're dropping slowly. They're not dropping at the rate we expect them to. Because in time there was a percentage rate of about 60%. Now we are about 40% or something. So I'm glad to say that we are dropping at a certain time. At a certain time, Teso has a sub-region, and Soroti has a district. The rate was so high. With these interventions, social media, mobilization, the engagement of other stakeholders like religious leaders, the cultural institutions, and also civil society organizations. We have tried our best, and now the percentage are dropping, and we are continuing to work as a district council, working out with the stakeholders to ensure that we completely avoid this vice of early marriages, of drug abuse, and not teenage pregnancies. So that the number of our children in primary, as long as they are alive, is not far from the number that is primary examination or universal secondary education exams of UNED.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Joining us from Soroti. Get back to you.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to speak to Brenda Namata, who is a journalist with the Uganda Media Women's Association, to speak about the role of media in advancing and speaking about some of these challenges and bringing the same to the national agenda.
Thank you very much. Particular to this, I think the media comes in at a point of responsively reporting on the implementation status of the policies and laws that we have in Uganda that speak to the education sector. Now, in 2015, we had, or the country welcomed the National Strategy on Girls' Education, where this strategy targets to narrow down the gender gaps within the education sector. And it was a blessing that we are going to have in terms of increment of the girl child at enrollment level within the school system, but then also completion and retainment. But to the shock, we realized that with the stories that we saw earlier from Lubani, SS, and the lady that we saw from Soroti, it shocks that in addition to our UN 2022 reporting, which reflects that whereas we have 68% of girls transitioning from primary level into secondary school, only 1 in 3 girls gets to complete school. Now the numbers even grow worse when it comes to the upper secondary education and the university level or the tertiary levels. Now the key point for media here is to come out and spotlight on the limitations that avail within policy implementation or earlier policy from the practice. And then the second bit of it is to have media prioritizing reporting on the limitations that affect retainers or retention of the girl child in school. We saw within the COVID-19 period or the post-COVID-19 period where we saw so many girls, over 23,000 girls getting pregnant within the first 4 months of the COVID period. And we had media having minimal reporting of the countrywide problem that was affecting the girls, but then also their return to school. And the key ask here within retainers of the girl child in school, but also impacting on the education sector is having the media to get to the newsrooms to prioritize education, but then seeing within the marginalized, the very marginalized groups, that is the girl child within the education sector, to see that report on the issues that undermine their retention in school. And then secondly, work towards the solution-based journalism where you provide solutions. How can we retain the girl child in school? And the third issue is that where the media comes in key is inform, educate, and sensitize, the principles of journalism basically. Now, we had the Ministry of Education as well, just like the earlier representative from the ministry addressed that about the new curriculum. We were in shock, and I was part of the people who asked, how are we going to transition from the status quo of Shaka Zulu and Napoleon Bonaparte into a skills-based learning? And very unfortunate that the media did not have strong concentration on educating Ugandans on what this new curriculum is. What are the benefits of this new curriculum? Where are we going to head? What's the future with the new curriculum away from the traditional means of studying as we have had? And then that pointed that now the media needs to start to inform, educate, and sensitize the public around education interventions that come up that target enrollment and at most completion and retention of the girl child in school, but then also other things that widely impact the media sector. And very key to that in the current times is the new curriculum. And for me, I think that at this point, that is where it points to the Ministry of Education and the responsible actors, that can you draw the media into these conversations? Get the media to have their cameras into this, make them understand, and then the media gets to educate the public about these issues. But also away from that, the other issue is that the media to challenge the social norms that affect the continuity of the girl child within school. Now we have had one of the issues, the lady who came from Soroti, and he mentioned why this girl dropped out of school or the teenage pregnancy. Among the issues that we had was poverty. The other issues that we have in that the negative cultural norms that are embedded within the society that this girl child is coming from, that it hinders her, one, either to be within school, or if a challenge has come up, she simply discontinues her engagement in school. Where is the media in this? Challenge the negative social norms. Can we have news stories that you're disseminating out there being survivor-centered in the sense that how are you presenting this girl child who has got a challenge to say of teenage pregnancy? How are you bringing her up into the public, but then the public to mean the community? How are you educating them into, one, avoiding or prevention of these challenges to the girl child, but then secondly, seeing that you retain this girl child by addressing the environmental factors that would rather affect the girl from being in school. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Many thanks indeed. Thank you. Now I'd like to turn to Imani Shimwe Ronald, who is from the Uganda Youth Forum under the Ministry of Sports. Sorry?
Government, not government.
Not government. Clearly, these two stories that we watched draw lessons for us and paint a picture of what is in rural areas of this country and perhaps triggers us to find some of the solutions, don't you?
Thank you so much. At one time, I was in Nairobi for an interview. It's called the Acumen Leadership. They were looking for 20 people from the whole of East Africa. And they asked me, if you became president for one day, what would you do in Uganda? And I told them that I would change the education system. And I am glad to report that I passed, although I am not yet president this side. I wanted to really emphasize on what the two colleagues at first said in terms of the education system. In my view, I feel that the education system is working as was designed. Because sometimes we think the system is broken. And whenever I teach people in adaptive leadership, I tell them there's no such thing as a broken system. You just have to say who are the winners and losers in that system. And for our education system, colonially was designed to be who we are. We speak good English, theorize, analyze, go home and sleep. That's it. So the British that designed this system must be very happy. We are clerks, we are typists, we are people who can write and speak good English in some accents, but at the end of the day, we are supposed to export raw materials and import finished products. This is who we are. Whether you are an engineer, the doctor told you, he saw a dark room when he went to UMI. Is that correct? Yes, but he had been to one of the best universities ranked in Africa. That's the tragedy that we have. So we can here pretend, say a lot of things, but even review the lower curriculum and do all those things. But I think we must start from a clean slate. I saw that girl who was moving on a bicycle. And I think the journalist did a very powerful report, by the way. Thank you so much. Plotting that distance on a bicycle. If I was her teacher in geography, why can't she get an A in geography? Why? You saw when it came to articulating herself in class, she somehow struggled. So she may be called a failure. Somebody who can navigate all those corners on a bicycle, you say she can't have an A? So, at the end of the day, we are assessing people and the media is always there. These are the best students. Here you waste our time. You have stigmatized the students. Parents now at school, if you have a student, because now they have sent out to success cards, so everyone is asking you, how did she perform? How did he perform? Now if it's not the A student, according to this, assessing you for swimming when you are really meant for climbing mountains. So now we are there traumatized, fearing to explain how our children have performed. But why can't that girl get an A in geography? Navigating the rains, knowing how. So for me, really, I think, and it depresses me. It depresses me. Somebody was asking, I was saying, by the way, there are some radical, we're talking about solution journalism. There are some radical solutions that we can stay. For example, if we could say, and the members of parliament are here, we could say any person who works for government, make sure your child goes to a government school. The problems you see will be fixed. Because if a minister's child is dropped in Uganda Road, he will make sure that the teachers are there. These things used to happen. And it's as simple as that. If I know that when I fall sick, I will not be allowed to fly abroad for treatment, I will ensure that Murago is working. So the solutions are here. We don't have to bring in experts and spend a lot of time doing. Let's pass a law. We say it is voluntary to work with the government. If you don't want, work with the private sector. But the moment you choose to work with the government, you must consume government services, including education and health. We shall all be happy. Finally, you talked about what can we do. Really, for us, every time we say these are stories, but these are destinies of people that are shattered. And I think my sister here talked about the socio-cultural norms that are very entrenched, by the way. They are so entrenched and that predispose us, and especially the young girls, to the risk of dropping out of schools and all that. And I'm saying, if you are a man here, I want to speak to the men. I see some of you are young and you are not yet married. Guys, fatherhood is a responsibility. It is not fun. And if you know you are not ready to take care of your child, do not move around planting seeds. Do not. It's a responsibility, and I think it is a failure of the patriarchal society. It is a failure. We have not defended our children. You have seen now, the father was chasing away the young girl. And I think the MC said now, I think it was a blessing in disguise. I think we really have a role to take. We need to protect our girls. We need to look at the vulnerability at home. We need to look at the issues they face from home to school along the way. And when they're in school, what kind of environment? How conducive is it for our girls to stay in school and be able to complete? And I think also the men, I would say some time back, there was a lot of focus on the girl child. I think the civil society is very misplaced. We need to also look at the boy child. We need to create, the boys can bully a girl if she's in her menstruation period, if she stamps on her chair, then you make fun, and that stigmatizes her, she may never come back. So even the boys have a role to play to ensure that we can support our brothers, we can support our sisters, and all of us win it together. I thank you.
Wow. Quite powerful submissions right there. But I think for me, my take home from your submission is the huge gap between the haves and the have-nots in society. And the education that is supposed to be the equalizer, we have continued to see gaps.
Something. I see our friend here, Philbert Waguma. When he was fighting for the teachers and the arts teachers, he was alone. The pressure was too much on him. So now we know the teachers said, let's go back and do what? And teach. We don't know whether government is pretending to teach them, to spare, and the teachers also pretending to what? To teach. So it is our responsibility. We cannot leave it to, because he talked about the parents must be involved really in the education system. We cannot leave it to the Bagumas of this world to stand alone, because they may not withstand the pressure. But if collectively we say, make sure that you teach, pay our teachers for them to be able to do this job.
All right, thank you. I would like to open it up to the audience, but perhaps in just a second, Baguma, if we could speak about the privatization of the sector and its impact on the education of this country.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is not only privatization, but it is privatization and commercialization of education. Because we don't see this only in private education institutions, but it has even gone to the government aided. You find a student is going back to school and the parent is parking as if you are going to start a supermarket. You know, you have to carry sugar, toilet paper, you have brooms, and so on. And this is a child who is going to school and has paid school fees. Now, we cannot stop private education institutions, but government has deliberately done it this way. Not funding public schools to create room for the private institutions to flourish. You hear the rhetoric that public schools are not performing, but that is where the public stops. How much is government investing in these schools? In a UPE school, government is paying around 20,000 per child per year. That translates into less than 80 shillings per day. Now, I want you to imagine 80 shillings per day and what you expect this child to get at the end of the day. And this child is competing with another child who is paying 2 million per term. So it is, here is meat, don't cook it, don't roast it, but I want it ready. And that has promoted privatization and commercialization in our education institutions, thus denying Ugandans their right to education. You find the parents and guardians are all facing in one direction. Reason, they are looking for better grades. But better grades do not tantamount to quality education. SDG 4 talks about inclusive education, equitable education, and which should not only be inclusive and equitable, but should be of quality, and should promote lifelong learning opportunities. And therefore, as Ugandans, we must demand that the government funds public education. There is no reason why the children from the poorest of the poor should not have education in a government-aided school where government is putting resources. If a government fails to invest in education, then forget about the middle income status. That will be the dreaming. Developed countries have invested in education. And therefore, without that, we are wasting time as a country. When you look at the girl child, yes, true, very many stakeholders have focused on the girl child education. But even up to date, if I had space, I would have brought you those who have gone back to school. Because as Uganda National Teachers Union, we have a project called Simameni. We are in 4 districts in Teso and 4 districts in Western. In Teso, we are in Serere, Ngora, Bukedia, and Kumi. In Bukedia, there was a team called Team No Sleep. You know, there are trailers which park along that road. Girls were leaving school and going to that team. Now, we empowered these girls. And these girls have gone back to school. And these girls are carrying the message. These girls are empowered. I have a girl in Kamwenge in the refugee school. The parents wanted to marry her off Rwamwanja Secondary School. and the girl said, I am not ready for marriage. She's still in school. But that is the empowerment we are talking about. We are looking at these children. We think and assume that these children come from homes where they are parents. We have very few parents. The others are fathers and mothers, and they are not parents, and therefore they cannot do the parenting. So if we don't have good parenting in homes, we don't expect these children to go to schools and perform better. So it is upon us. And the media sometimes is very funny. I took the media when I was going to distribute materials to support the girl child. I was distributing reusable sanitary pads, face masks. We were giving girls scholastic materials, hand-washing facilities to bring them back to school. Guess what was reported? Along the way, they asked me, how far have you gone with the government on salary? That is what was reported. But the issue that had taken us to the field was distribution of materials to support the girl child education. And therefore, the media is called upon also in the reporting. We need to improve the reporting. Otherwise, sometimes what should inform the citizens about what is going on is not reported. Possibly we need to get it from you, the media people, what makes news. So that we get to know when we should invite you and when we should not. Otherwise, sometimes some of the things go unnoticed because the media will go there, but will not capture the essence of the function. I thank you.
Thank you so much. I know that our time is fast spent, and this is why you get to talk back to us. In case you have a question or submission, kindly raise your hand. We will pick you. You can introduce yourself and then speak to us. If there is any of the panelists that you'd like to speak directly or answer to your question, kindly make that known as well. All right, guys, this is why you raise your hands in case you have any question. Julius here, the MC, will be kind enough to come to you, and then we will hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Rauni Namhura from Teach for Uganda. This one goes to Mr. Waguma. What has been done to ensure that, he talked of it being a mandate of the parent and the government to ensure that our children get education. We work in rural communities and we realize that majority of these key stakeholders who are the parents in education do not know their role. What is being done to ensure that these parents understand their mandate towards education? And my other comment is, so many times we are raising the girl child, a good girl, for the wrong boys. Because so much we're saying girl child education. We're here to talk about education. I am a woman and I appreciate the importance of education. But where is the boy child? We're talking about education, we're always saying girl child education. What about the boy child? Because for us to ensure that the girl child gets quality education, I do believe that we have to bring on the boy children to ensure that the girl child also receives that quality education.
Thank you. Thank you. We will just take one question from the chosen members. Because of time, kindly ask one question. Thank you. There is a gentleman over there.
Thank you. My name is Huntington from Seattle, Uganda. Let me stand. I'm short enough that you can't see when I'm seated, so let me stand. So my name is Hannington from Siatin, Uganda. We are a think tank and also an NGO working on trade and fiscal-related policies. Allow me to I should have asked a question, but let me submit. Education must touch the heart, the hands, and the mind. As we are talking about these so many things, people need to have skills. What are the important skills right now for us as Uganda? We can't have all the skills for a starter. One of the most important things we're looking at as Uganda, currently our biggest earner is agriculture. Can we transform that agriculture to using ICT and other things? I believe those are the low-hanging fruits. That's where we should start from. Secondly, education must communicate value. We will struggle and continue to struggle if we tell people to take their children to school and they are seeing the children who are in Kampala not having jobs, not having what to do. They will still marry off their children. So how then do we translate it to be a thing of value? Education having value, giving people jobs, allowing them to create for themselves by giving them these necessary skills. Finally, I think as media people, people in the space of media.
One question.
Oh, can I?
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much. I am Samuel Ejoku. I work for the New Vision, based in Soroti office. I edit news. So I'm basically coming to deliver on, kindly bear with me, on 3 items. One, we have run away from the fact that, and we have continued comparing, that the education of long ago was so solid. It was producing a competent person and key to the morals. Today, that's not happening. And we are not answering the question, who is to be held responsible? One of the leaders was deliberating. I was hearing him talk. And was saying, most of the leaders have taken course in ensuring that children are motivated to get back to school. But most of the learners who are dropping out of school and getting pregnant out of school, and even the schools where they are studying, the parents have run away from their responsibility. We are sure of the fact that there is a provision in the Education Act 2005, I'm very conversant about it, which mandates the parents to contribute in helping government in education by contributing the PTA. Today, as we talk, it has been politicized. Now, remember, the parents are having the mandate to support government by employing some of the teachers to back up the ceiling. But now politicians are coming saying, we cannot have you pay that money, it's the responsibility of government. But we are crying that government is running away from the responsibility when we are having also as a stake as parents. I would implore, in my suggestion going forward, one of the key aspects probably as the media that we must invest in is to go into the data journalism aspect, informed with the graphics.
Thank you so much.
Because one, it will help us to come up with the figures and the statistics, which will help us to get informed of how many learners are suffering outside there because of the dilapidated buildings that have actually failed to access school because of the long distance. I have statistics, I would have given you the breakdown, but because of the
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
We would really discuss.
Thank you.
Desired.
Thank you. All right, thank you for those submissions right there. We will have the last question.
Thank you very much. My name is Katwangole Arnold. I deal with literature elements of speech and writing and an affiliate of the law. Journalist pursuing. Thank you very much. Listening for the very time that the discussion was commencing. I have a submission and a question towards the end. And this is what I have to say, that we're here talking about education. At the start of the conversation, Julia said that, do we think education is still the key to success, as many said? One of the great people that I as a Pan-African, think, Luther King said that creativity and innovation comes from education. Nelson Mandela said that a son of a miner can become a mine manager through education, and a son of a farmer and a peasant can become a president of a great nation like South Africa through education. Tupac Shakur, through his lines, say that, I want to learn, but I want to be consulted on what I learn. But up to date, nobody has given me a rule book for that. We're asking the teachers, Dr. Philbert and Dr. there, have you given the students the rule book, or you just pursuing out programs for them to go to school as a matter. Dr. Margaret, I have a question for you. You were at Namasagali sometime as a student. You were at Ruby SS, you were at Chitante Hill as a teacher. Do you think the education system you went through is still the education system today? Probably not. The colonialist, probably Governor Frederick Crawford, is where he is lying. He's very happy that we've messed up his education. That the imperialists left for us an education, and they left you an option to change it since we are independent. We've not done so. 1997, the NRM government into power comes in with the Education Service Commission. The Education Service Commission, and still 1997-98, we come up with the UPE. 2007-2008, we come up with the USE. We come up with the AMIS. We come up with the Lower Secondary Curriculum 2019-2020. But hey, have these served their purposes? We as the government, have they put the correct legislation? We are here talking about education as a priority. 2021, its budget was cut by 3.0. And in 2023, the budget coming up, it's cut still to 6.0. Are we going forward or we are going back? It's like the government has left education only to clean its hands to sensitize themselves that they have provided money, but it's not working. We as the journalists, our role, I think, is to put these people to account, to checks and balance, that they should provide incentives or what we call our real basic needs, time, rather than only putting them as sanitizable things and they can live on. I beg to rest my case.
Thank you. And I can't agree with you more. I think that there's so much that we can do. But because of time, I'm afraid the panelists may not get to answer some of these questions here. However, we will have them in the break-off sessions that we will be having. And so this brings us to the very end of our conversation. Thank you so much for having been a good audience. And thank you to my panelists. And I will invite Bella Twine to take it on from here. My name is Rahim Nwali, and goodbye.
A very big round of applause for Nwali and his team of panelists. Thank you so much, Nwali, for conducting that session. It was very insightful, very educational, especially from Brenda, who highlights how solutions can be encouraged in different communities to enable the girl child go to school and actually make a life out of themselves, right? So in this session, it's going to be a town hall discussion. Yes, this is a town. So we're going to all offer solutions to these problems that we've all been mentioning. We're going to stop pointing fingers. Yes, it's important, but also as a community, what other solutions can we offer so that these can be taken up? I have my colleagues. Moses, are you here? Moses? Moses, Isaac, Patricia. They will be taking notes, and then we will be sharing these solutions with the different stakeholders so that we see some changes, right? So one of the things that we want to highlight and also take charge of is school dropouts, right? So how are we going to tackle school dropouts? As media organizations, as political stakeholders, also as civil society organizations, what are we going to do in order to tackle school dropouts? This is an open question. Everybody is open to participate. The students at the back, you've been quiet, so I want you to participate and tell us what we can do in order to get these children back to school. But also in our midst, we have very, very many innovators who have innovated for the educational sector. Teach for Uganda, Boundless Minds, and many, many others. So we implore you to contribute and tell us what solutions have worked for you and how can they be replicated over and over again. I have my mic runner, who is Amos over there. So let's start. Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is David Moses Okelo, aka DMO. I learned from her. I work as head of programs at Teach for Uganda, and I'll share in response to the very great question around solutions to school dropouts. So as Teach for Uganda, we run a fellowship. We call it Teaching as Leadership Fellowship, where we place graduates as well as government teachers to improve the learning outcomes of children, especially in foundational classes, P1 to P3. But this year we are also piloting the secondary level, where our focus is on CPDs, or continuous professional development, for implementation of the lower secondary curriculum. Now, one of the initiatives that we have in the fellowship is home visits. So all our teachers are expected to visit the parents. In the rural schools, we don't love to use that word rural. We use the word low income, because even in Kampala, where we are, we have communities with low income. And so in the low income communities, we are able to engage. We try to bridge the gap between the school and the community. And we do that by our fellows engaging the parents, conducting home visits. So if you have 200 learners, by the end of an academic year, we expect that you are able to visit each and every parent of these 200 learners in the community. And the conversations you're having is on supporting the education of their children. And so issues around absenteeism, for example, if you see a girl or boy has been absent for the last 3 days, so during that home visit, you interact with the parent to know why is my child so-and-so not in class. And so home visits is one of the approaches we are using, and we are promoting even for government teachers to adopt that. If you have learners in your class, are you able to interact with the parents of these learners quite often, so that we close that gap between the school and the community. So it's one of the approaches that we employ.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. So any other submission? I want submissions. Please keep it short because we're out of time.
Hello. Yeah, I want to compliment my brother over there on what we can do to make sure that we cap down the dropouts. Now, back in the region I come from, Wenzori region, and particularly I'm talking about the administrative units of Kabarori district, Fort Portal, Kenjojo, Kamwenge, and so on, to mention but a few. We have gone on to train a community infrastructure that we call civic educators. Now, we all should know that some of these problems that we are actually interfacing with are as a result of low civic competence within the communities. Now, the civic educators are trained in such a way that they can be able to continuously train the community members on social gatherings within their churches, within the schools, to make sure that the girl child is actually kept in school. And not to mention, we should understand that actually the biggest problem, for example, when you go to districts of Kasese and Toroko, they are hit so much with child pregnancies. And it is also a cultural vice. So to counter this, we are using the civic educators, but also we are using another infrastructure which we are calling community community-based facilitators. Now, these people have got a noble role that upon completion of the training, and by the way, they are trained in very many aspects, not limited to leadership and accountability, education, good governance and service delivery, and so on, to mention but a few. Now, when they go back, they are supposed to make sure that they are watchdogs in the community. They are looking at issues of education in schools. How are the teachers faring? In fact, should they find like a teacher taking alcohol during day, it becomes a real serious community case that they will begin themselves advocating from that level and onwards. For purposes of time, I guess I'll cut
I
it
think
short.
I'll give it to Honorable Margaret to say something as well, to offer a solution to this issue.
Thank you very much. I've already been introduced, so I don't want to go back to that. Only that at Parliament, I chair the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Quality Education. On the issues that we are talking about, let me talk about a high dropout rate. I think we have been so lenient. For example, we are talking about those big numbers of the people, of the learners, pupils who dropped out of school because of early pregnancy. But you find that when you read that, I read the papers so much, and here I'm also faulting the journalists. We have not been updated whether these people who made the girls become pregnant and dropped out of school, we have not had any court case. Do those big people pay money and we are silent about it? We don't hear anything because nothing has been done about those people who should be culprits. Now, we are just lenient, we are not talking about anything, and that's why it is fizzling out, and many other girls are becoming pregnant. So this is a challenge to all of us, journalists, parents, and also the government. We are concerned. I've not had any case where they say this. Someone even was on TV, and they told us that this man you see here, he impregnated 18 girls during COVID, but nothing was done. Another one, I think, was from Uganda. He was even posing. He said, you know, this young girl, yes, I'm responsible for the pregnancy. She delivered about a week ago. But I was disappointed when she went to look to get her results. She had not performed well.
So what are the solutions
The
that
solution
you have?
should be that there should be naming and shaming of these people. That's when people will get scared and say, I don't want to be like the other person. And also we should know if they are being taken to court. I'm not talking about the tribal court where people sit as a family and say, you bring 2 goats and that's enough. That's what is happening. So we have taken it so lightly. That's why the children have dropped out of school. And then the other one, what is it that we can do about the the high dropout rate because of people who come or register in very big numbers? We get 1,300,000 at primary 1, and then when it comes to P7, 600,000. Pupils in P6 were allowed to sit exams. And so those numbers we are not counting, but every paper I was reading, we are celebrating that at least now we have increased in numbers. But the high dropout rate has continued to be very, very low, and it's embarrassing. One time I saw something in the newspaper where they were saying children have dropped out in the Busoga area. I will not mention specifically, 2 districts. We had to move there as a forum. We went to the schools and looked at the dropout rate because they put it on the head teacher's office. You see, in first term, they were at this number. In third term, the numbers had dwindled in about 4 or 5 schools, where you find in one of them, they is in charge of children. Then we met also the parents. The parents said, no, for us we don't have money, and our children, they help us because when they go and cut sugar cane and they load, then they bring money for soap and for other things at home. So many of us are responsible for what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. I'll give it to the lady over there to say something. We're going to have one more response, and then we'll go to the next question.
Hello.
Hi.
Out. I think the best thing that we can do is stop the stereotyping about academics. Academics, you'll just have your paper and you'll put it there, but that paper will not feed you. Let's get out and get very practical. What can we do? What can you do as a person? You can dig, you can clean the room, you can do creatives with your phone and earn money, you can sell, you can do anything. These things of paperwork in my 20 years journey after school, actually when I'm looking for people to employ, I don't look at the paperwork. I look at the attitude that you have when you come. You have to do journalism, you have to go to law school, you all have to be doctors. I mean, the interns are complaining. They don't even earn 1.5 million shillings. And yet someone who is doing business in cleaning is earning that in a month. So why don't we get out and do what needs to be done and forget about the paperwork? Get the girl child down there. I remember when we were in primary, we used to do weaving. We used to do baskets. We used to do rugs. We used to do soap. What happened to all these things? We're just telling the children, please get a 4. Will the 4 feed you? It won't feed you. So I think we need to have a whole mindset change about this education thing and say it doesn't work for us Africans. Let's just calm down and be who we are, and we will be able to achieve this in future.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Who has a burning solution that has never been mentioned before, that we have not heard of before? Yes, please.
One, two.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here and to mention that one of the solutions we are looking at as Nimaronji is to ensure that we are making use of data to eradicate education inequality. But that's something that we've been talking about, so I'll delve maybe on the other part of our solution that I feel is very
solutions? Like Nimarunji, what she's doing, how can that be done 10 times over in different communities and elsewhere? Yes, please. Hands, anybody?
There's a mic.
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. My name is Kola Abuko from Fabio. Our niche is a bicycle. So we use a bicycle for transformation, for access to school. That's how we address the challenge of access to school for students, for our pupils in Busoga. So we work mostly in Busoga sub-region, but we look at retention as key to our community. Our first thing that we looked at, how can we contribute towards education, was the girl child. But at the end of that day, we discovered that the boy child was left behind. We introduced the safeguarding policy and safeguarding in community. Safeguarding involves the stakeholders, the education system, the people in the community, the education, and then it involves the community leaders themselves. It involves all of them, even the borders themselves, the people who stay in that very village are involved. And then it involves also we ourselves and the parents themselves. Through the community meetings we engage, we have dialogue with the community. How can we support our children to achieve quality education? How can we achieve retention?
So how can we take Fabio from wherever it is to Gulu, Karamoja, and all these other communities?
How can we take Fabio to these other places? It's through community dialogues that we will support the grassroots, the structures that are existent, to make them stronger and much better to influence education and have retention. Thank you.
Okay. Any other solutions?
Yes.
Boundless minds? Solutions? Not yet?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Kayanja. I work with Read to Learn Foundation. We empower communities in their diversities to create solutions on ground by themselves. So one of the solutions that we have, I'll just do quick on that one. We empower young people to be the literacy champions within the communities where they come from. So we train young people who later become the trainers of the younger children. And our niche is early childhood development and foundational learning.
So how do we take that elsewhere?
Yes. The solution is that we think how to take this elsewhere is having enough funds and putting up policies that can help early childhood centers that can bring up young people at a very early age and empower foundational learning in different areas of the country. And the media can always amplify on these projects than amplifying on projects that really do not bring much development. When a dog bites a human being, that's not news. When a human being bites a dog, that's news. Let's transform this into something, projects that really bring out sense to the communities for people to grow. And media has a very, very strong position of changing things across the country, even across the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd love to continue, but time is up. A big shout out to all these solutions that are making a difference. Teach for Uganda, Boundless Minds, Enjuba, Yeya Solutions, Nimarunji, Girl Up Initiative, and all of you who have been here with us. If you've not gotten a chance to speak, please look for solutions now. They'll come and document your story. But at this juncture, please help me welcome Abbas Mpindi, the CEO, Media Challenge Initiative.
Thank you. Please clap for Bella, everyone. Clap for ourselves. Thank you so much. I hope that you've had very, very to raise money or even to attract, support, because it's credibility. And that's where it comes back to the role of the media in terms of spotlighting the different solutions that you're discussing here. The conversation is bigger than just solutions. We have to find more time to continue with this. What my team also has, proposed is an accelerated series of activities that we'll be doing alongside this dialogue. We will communicate when and what issue we'll be having. One other thing that we also want to do is to reach out to the different, stakeholders, members of parliament, organizations to partner with us on amplifying this dialogue even stronger and even much better. So I hope that, when we reach out to the different organizations, that you can also come on board and partner with us. Thank you once again to DW Academy, to BMC, and to all of you for coming here today. We do have a cocktail. We end with drinks and some baits, and then we also want you to stay here and network and talk to each other. So as you move out from here at the reception, you will find also the innovations from different innovators who are working in education are being showcased outside. For those who want to stay in this room, we'll be continuing to play education stories that have been covered by our newsroom. Thank you so much, and please, this is home. Keep coming. Have a good evening.
Ninaona singa sabu, uri muganga. never live or rely upon God. Cheneka kasanja sirika ye wala bingi era ne wokisoma mu bitabo okiraba bulungi lewonsojja n'obugambo bunkuddemu bankusonge mu bindwazo mutima guluma okusirika zempeke nze zemmira cheneka kasanja sirika ye wala bingi era ne wokisoma mu bitabo okiraba bulungi lewonsojja n'obugambo bunkuddemu bankusonge mu bindwazo mutima guluma okusirika zempeke nze zemmira sirisete yekisa okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama kyolizula manya mubesigwa ofunayo pakingi wewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi sirisete yejjusa ebigambo ebingi tebigula mutima sirisete yejjusa okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama kyolizula manya mubesigwa ofunayo pakingi wewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi sirisete yejjusa ebigambo ebingi tebigula mutima tosimatuka ebyama byo olulimi lufuge toyogera ebiyitira manya ekituufu gy'oli tukirabira ku bigambo byo ayogedde ki olwokyogereko ki sooka omanye tofuuka ensonga lwaki abantu bakyawagana olw'ebigambo byo okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama kyolizula manya mubesigwa ofunayo pakingi wewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi sirisete yejjusa ebigambo ebingi tebigula mutima okutegeera tekulina ddoboozi omukebo omukalu gwe guwaawala tegeera ensonga yaffe tetukukugira kwogera naye bw'oba yonna sooka osindeke sirisete yejjusa okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama kyolizula manya mubesigwa ofunayo pakingi wewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi sirisete yejjusa ebigambo ebingi tebigula mutima sirisete yejjusa okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama kyolizula manya mubesigwa ofunayo pakingi wewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi sirisete yejjusa ebigambo ebingi waliwo abakaaba ekiro kubanga basalawo bubi kyekibabuzisa otulo kati olw'egguloggulo mu kawungeezi k'obulamu bwabwe lwe bajjukira ensobi songa waliwo akaseera k'okusalawo ekituufu obudde bwabayitako tebudda tebaali tebamanyi bw'okitegedde nga buta bendaba okukuza olubuto wakira lutuga waliwo abakaaba ekiro kubanga basalawo obubi kyekibabuzisa otulo kati olw'eggulo mukawungeezi k'obulamu bwabwe lwe bajjukira ensobi songa waliwo akaseera k'okusalawo ekituufu obudde bw'abayitako tebudda kye baali tebamanyi bw'okitegedde nga bukyali kubanga bangi bendaba okukuza olubuto wakira lutuga bisaana mu choice bamukwatagana obulamu bulinga kaddayisiko olina okusuululabe tosobola kunnyogoga ng'ate n'obuguma zenfimampima ensonga zange mu buli kimu enkola choice yange bikusukako lwakuba wasalawo okulwanira ebingi ebitayamba n'ebibi bisiŋŋana mwattu leka kulimbibwa nti oyinza okula ensi n'ogimalawo tekisoboka okuyomba manya eba choice yokwe okulwana n'okubwa zikusanze anti ye choice gyokoze bisaana mu choice bamukukwatagana obulamu bulinga kaddayisiko olina okusuululabe tosobola kunnyogoga ng'ate n'obuguma zenfimapima ensonga zange mu buli kimu enkola choice yange bisaana mu choice bamukukwatagana obulamu bulinga kaddayisiko olina okusuululabe tosobola kunnyogoga ng'ate n'obuguma zenfimapima ensonga zange mu buli kimu enkola choice yange bisaana mu choice bamukukwatagana obulamu bulinga kaddayisiko olina okusuululabe tosobola kunnyogoga ng'ate n'obuguma zenfimapima ensonga zange mu buli kimu n'enkola choice yange
Now, hear this. Great music, great vibes from DJ Swizmac, the humble DJ.